Feel the heat from when it pop. It's the same thing when it's time to shoot. Dead man walking, mouth is moving, that's got talking, cross on my neck and it's shining. It's a new freezer and it's a walking, God's a keeper, lights be.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the one and only DE4C podcast. I'm your host, Elder Rasul Chester. And this podcast is where we give real talk for real life to our kids and our teens. If you missed our first episode, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment on this page, and so that the notification can hit your phone so you won't miss another episode. Now you're in for a treat because we have today our guest, Kalani Parker, who's a 7th grader. And we're going to talk about his life and how he felt abandoned to belonging to now, hopefully we can get to forgiveness. And so now we're going to get into this conversation because a lot of teens are raised by not their biological parents, but they're raised by grandparents, aunties, uncles, brothers or sisters that are raising other people's children. And so we always give the accolades to the parents or the ones who step up to help raise other people's children, but we forget to talk to the children about how they feel about the situation that they were put in. And so today we have a young man, Kalani Parker. And so DE4C viewers, let's welcome Kalani Parker to the podcast. Kalani, how you feeling today, sir?
Good.
Good. Well, welcome, man. Welcome. We're very excited to have you. And while we get started, tell a little people about yourself.
I'm 14. I'm repeating 7th. I did track, and then I do track in February after we come back from break.
Okay, yeah, and I made a mistake and said wrestling. My nephew's in wrestling right now, so that's the season. But you're a track star, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, what events do you run?
I do track and field, sometimes long jumping and high jumping.
Okay, long jump and high jump. Well, that's great. So let's talk about your situation. Now, who is raising you now?
My grandmother. My grandparents.
Your grandparents, okay. How long has your grandparents been raising you?
Since, if you want to say since I was a baby. And then at around 10-ish, they gave me back to my mother from 4th to 6th grade. And then I just recently came back to them over 2 summers ago, so around 2 years ago.
2 years ago, okay. So what was it like living? What was it like living with your grandmother?
It was
in the beginning, because I know you. We're going to talk about living with your grandmother and going back to your mother. So what was it like living with your grandmother when you were young?
It was not difficult, except behavior issues. I had a lot of behavior issues during elementary school, seeing other kids. Sometimes it'd be days where it's bring your parents into work or something, and I have to ask my grandmother or stuff like that. So it was behavior issues and not knowing how to deal with it at a young age.
Okay. So was there behavior issues like you said when they had those things in elementary school? Because in elementary schools they have different things like bring parent-teacher conference or what's it called, muffins with moms and donuts with dads. Tell me how you felt when the other children were bringing their parents, and you couldn't bring your parents, or you had to bring your grandma. Do you remember how you felt? And tell us that. Sort of
like a greed kind of moment. I wanted what the other kids had since I didn't have it.
Okay. That's good. So, and what would you do? Would you tell your parents about it? Or did your grandmother come to those things, and how did you feel when she came?
Well, she used to do, I think it was law enforcement back then too. And I would bring her in for certain events and stuff, and she would come in. But then I think 2nd grade-ish, I had to do counseling in school.
Okay. So now that was to help you with your behavior?
Yeah, behavior issues and stuff like that.
Okay. So now you said after you stayed with your grandmother, you went back to your mother.
Yes.
And so tell us about that experience.
Well, the first experience we ever had was I had because she was abusive and stuff like that. So the first experience I ever had was one weekend or whatever, I went over there and I got in trouble for like stomping down the hallway. And then she put her hands on my neck or whatever. And then when I went back home, we had to talk about that. Well, me and my grandmother did.
Okay, okay. And now, was that the first time being disciplined like that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, how did your grandmother, living with your grandmother, when you got in trouble in elementary school and behavior problems, how was her discipline with your
Well,
grandmother?
I would get a whooping or like squats or something like that. Or we used to have this old like wooden timeout chair that you had to sit in with like a little clock on the back. You had to sit in that for a certain amount of time.
Okay, okay. So this one, when you felt with your mother, you felt that it was abusive,
Yes.
and then so you know the difference between that. Okay. Um, was there ever a moment you felt unwanted, and how did that affect you eternally?
And unwanted by my like
Your mom.
oh. It would be like certain moments where like if she put her hands on me for like a reason that didn't make sense or something like that. I wouldn't feel like I necessarily wasn't unwanted, but it was like certain moments where I felt like I just didn't belong.
Okay. And so now, so you're staying with your mom, and so at those moments, and so this is for all the children that feels like, because there's some type of discipline. Like I discipline. It says the word says, spoil the rod, spoil the child. Is that correct? And so there's sometimes I discipline my children. How does it? How do you feel, or what do you do when you feel like the discipline is the abuse? What did you do? How did you cope with that?
I just more so of stayed to myself, like in households. Like if she was drinking or stuff, I would lock myself in the room or whatever. And I just learned to like put trust in other people since I couldn't like trust my mom like that.
Okay, and so alcohol has something to do with it as
Yeah.
well. Abuse of alcohol. Okay. Now, when you got back with your grandmother, now did you tell your grandmother about it, and that's how you got back with your grandmother?
Yes.
Okay. And so, how did you feel when you got back with your grandmother?
It was more of like a. It took a minute for me to like get back into like, if you want to say like her disciplinary kind of shows. Like it took a minute for me to get used to like her household rules and stuff from where I had came from. So like when I had first started back up school, there was a lot of behavior issues, phone calls home, suspendeds and stuff like that.
Okay. Okay. So let's get down to. So how do you feel now about your mom? Where are you at now? I know this was. You say you're 14, and so you're at now. Before you was 8 to. You stayed with her from 8 to 10. So how do you feel now about your mom?
It's more so of I just learned to like push her out of my life instead of trying to heal the bond we had. I just started pushing her away.
Push on. Okay. Okay. Is that him? Now the thing says. Psalms 27 says, "Though my father and mother forsake me, the Lord will receive me." Now, have you been going to church?
Yes.
And so, how have you felt about the Lord coming into your life?
I feel like he's showed me proper discipline, and there's like been moments where now I'll get in trouble in school or whatever, and like I will talk to like mom about it or whatever, or like dad about it, and like now I'm doing better in school. My grades are better and stuff like that. So I feel like he's helped me learn to discipline myself.
Okay, and so when you talk about mom and dad, you talking about your grandparents.
Yes.
Okay. Psalms 34:18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted, and He saved those who are crushed in spirit." Did you ever feel that your spirit was crushed when you was with your mother?
I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
Because I used to have a best friend, his name was like Leon.
Okay.
And whenever like me and her had like our ups and downs or whatever, I would like go to his house and his mom or whatever. She was just like my second family, if you want to say. So like I had friends to like heal me who knew what I was going through.
So okay, so what would you tell some people that it was in your situation? You would tell them to find a friend or
A friend or like a trusted person that you know like won't judge you or like would believe you for one. Because some kids like they'll be like some kids are melodramatic, if you want to say like one hit and then they say it's abuse stuff like that. Like you need to know what you're actually like saying, like what's coming out your mouth and stuff like that.
okay, because so like you said, you can tell from abuse to discipline.
Yeah.
Got you. So now going back to your school and back to your grandmother, did you feel any bitterness or anger towards your grandmother for letting you go back to your mom, or your mom for giving you back to your grandmother? Did you feel any anger or
I felt
bitterness?
anger towards my mother because I felt like it was like disobeying her trust in a way, because my grandmother put in the trust for my mom thinking that my mom was like ready to put up the job of taking care of her son, and then she couldn't fulfill that job. So I felt anger towards my mother, and that's when I was like in a hate kind of emotion for a long time towards her.
Okay. So now that's the point. So now we got to the point of, as we're into the podcast, where we dealt with abandonment, and then we back to belonging. And so we get into the episode, part of the episode where we're talking about forgiveness. And we can't push forgiveness on anyone out there. We can't even push forgiveness on you. Forgiveness is a choice that a person has to make, that they want to free themselves. And we learned here at the Hope that forgiveness is not for the person you're forgiving, but for you. Because a lot of people in this holiday season are still holding on grudges, holding on bitterness, that eventually turns to anger. And so it says in Ephesians 4:26, it says, "Be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your anger." And so we want to make sure that we're going to talk about this right now. We're going to see the anger that he feels, that somehow, what can come out of that. Because the only thing that we don't want to come out of that is, it said in the word, you don't want sin to come out of it. Kalani, did it take time for you to trust and love again? And I'm telling, when I say trust and love again, because our parents can be our number one person that we love and trust. Did that even affect you when it deal with your everyday relationship with friends, classmates, teachers, coaches?
Yes. Like nowadays, I won't talk to a counselor or something like that, and like I won't open up as much as I used to. And like if it comes to females or something like that, it's like really bad trust issues.
And I'm an educator, and so the children that I have most issues with are my male children that have absentee fathers, and because they probably look at me when I try to discipline them or correct them or even talk with them, they look at me in that tone of like, who are you? So as most of your discipline, what are some of the things that you had to be disciplined at? Got in trouble at school with? And if you look at it, are some of them the female teachers or whoever you got into it with?
Almost every time I've ever gotten in trouble with a female teacher.
There's always been a female
Yeah.
teacher. Now, do you have male teachers? Because I know male teachers now sometimes are scarce. Do you have any male teachers?
Yes.
Now, do you have any problem with any male teacher?
No.
Okay. And so when you're, that's a very, I got to pause at that thing, that part here, because parents, you got to understand that sometimes your child may be getting in trouble because of what's the void that's missing in the family's life. So there's an absentee father and he's always getting in trouble by the male coach. Or their mother's not there and he's always getting in trouble by the female bus driver. And so sometimes we want to look at those things, and not always the person that's in authority is probably what's happening at home. Because ministry starts at home, and there's probably a cry out there. You shared that now, do you have contact with your mother now?
No.
Not okay.
But that's by choice.
That's by choice. Okay. And now that's forward by choice because, so why is that by choice? Go ahead. You can elaborate.
I just rather not speak to her. Because at the beginning of the school year, when I was speaking to her, I had a lot of behavior issues and stuff like that. Okay. And then ever since I cut contact and just started focusing on myself and the people that were around me at the time who took care of me, they've just been doing better since then.
Okay. So you saying it's better to not talk to her so you can stay on the right path.
Yeah.
So is it that, so the last time you talked to her, let's try to go back to that part if you can remember. Does she still have, so when you talk with her, that connection, how does that feel?
Last time I seen her was my birthday. She talks to me on like a sympathy kind of level. Like she feels bad for me for leaving or whatever. And like she always tells me how she wants to go to like try her best to earn me back and stuff like that. But then it's like ever since I've left, it's like she hasn't been doing better. It's like she went worse.
Thank you for sharing that. Do you believe in forgiveness, or more freeing yourself than excusing someone else?
Well, like I said, like when I said they were like when it comes to females and stuff like
Yep.
trust issues and stuff. Now, if like there's a problem, I'll say like I forgive someone, but then like I won't really forgive them. Like I have a hard time forgiving. Like I hold a grudge.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You and a million other people out there that's watching this. And so that's why we're hitting these heavy topics, because forgiveness is not forgetting, but forgiveness is not still holding on. Okay, forgiveness, like I said, we talked about here, is setting you free from whatever is trying to hold you back. But it's not forgiving what that person has done to you, but it's not holding on to it. It's just giving them the reason to set you free. The word says in Ephesians 4:32, it says, "Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ of God forgave you." And we're not asking you or Kalani right here to forgive, because that takes time. That takes the Holy Spirit. That takes God to come into your life and work on you. And Kalani, I thank you, man, for just sharing everything that you shared today. If you can help a young person out there that hasn't, that's in your situation, or someone that's in a worse situation, filled in abandonment, belonging, what would you tell them?
If you can't trust other people, then find trust in yourself. Cause there was a lot of times where it took like a minute for me to find friends and people who I could like seek fellowship in. So I found more in trusting and relying on myself.
Good, good, good. So you got to trust, you say trust yourself. Okay. What are some things that you do? Now, how are you going to trust yourself in the future?
But like now, I'll double check myself before I do like certain things, like overthinking, if you want to use that word. Like if someone were to tell me something, I might go back and like ask another person or two just to see if like sure. Or if someone says that somebody else said that, I won't go do it unless they tell me that from themselves.
How has your faith helped you see yourself differently than you've seen yourself in the past?
In the past, I didn't living with my mom. I didn't go to church really, unless like we came like to visit here or whatever. So now that I do go to church, it's been more of like a God's helped me see like past the hate kind of emotion, and now it's been like He opened my mind to forgiving and thinking of other ways to like heal.
So now that we're in church, tell me what you do at church. So what's some of the things that you do at church? What's some of the things you do here?
Sometimes I'll just there's certain opportunities I might raise my hand to do like certain things like go up and help out or something like that. But then the main part is like waking up early in the morning and living an hour away.
I don't know where just getting here, yeah. But when you get here, you find out what you can do.
Yeah.
Man, I think, like you said, working with God and and trusting in yourself, and then trusting in God and the people around you, and your grandmother, I think the future is bright. I think, I know God has a plan for you, as it says in Jeremiah 29:11. And on the way, as you continue to heal, you will be able to reconcile that situation, even in your heart and your mind, and hopefully eventually with your mom physically. Um, what kind of man do you believe God is shaping you to be?
I feel like he's shaping me into the person to not be one to rely on other people. Cause like going through a lot of stuff, there's been a lot of people that I've like lost, like friends and stuff, while moving around and stuff like that. So I think he's like been teaching me how to get over loss and find like seek fellowship in myself before others. Like you can't trust other people if you can't trust yourself.
What has the journey taught you about your strength?
Can you elaborate?
Um, where you thought that where something was breaking you down, but it was it was breaking you down or tearing you up, but was just giving you strength.
I feel like my mom treating me bad or whatever was kind of like a way of like disciplining myself because it more so showed me how not everyone can like seem to like be on your side because she's my mom, so she's supposed to treat me right, but she didn't. So it's like how people say don't judge a book by its cover. She didn't like fit her role per se. So it's like taught me to not have high expectations of other people.
Okay. The Bible says, honor thy mother and father. And I raised my niece at 4 years old until now. But we always taught her to honor her mother and father. Do you honor your mom?
I wouldn't say that I won't, but I also won't say that I will. Like, if someone were to ask me to speak about her, I more so wouldn't. Like, it would take a lot of courage to do, like, certain things dealing with her and stuff like that.
Gotcha. And listen, and even at that point, that's honor. Because you thought about it and said, hey, if I don't have nothing nice to say, I won't say anything at all. That's honor. And so, like I said, when he says honor thy mother and father, for these days on this earth will be long, guess what? You will live long. Because even all the stuff that you've done, you can see the enemy wants us to say, okay, let me get up here and let me bash and let me do this. And even through this whole interview, you didn't do that at all. And you honor her in that way. And so to everyone out there, remember, it's not what happens to you that matters. It's how you respond to what happens to you that God deals with you. And so let's continue from the lesson. Kalani, man, I thank you, my brother. I thank you for coming out here. Middle school. And he's not the only middle school that's dealing with that out there. If you felt abandoned or belonging, and now up to forgiving, listen, remember, seek a church home. Seek a church home because you can't do it without God. No matter what, he's still on the road. He still continue on the journey. But with God, he'll get to the destination. Thank you for joining the episode of DE4C Podcast, where remember, you matter, you're enough. I see you, you see me, and God sees us. So let's do everything for Christ. Until the next episode, let's go.